There she is. Hello, hello,
Here I
hello.
am.
I love this orange
Hello,
you have going
hello.
on. It's so
Thank you,
fun.
thank you, thank you.
So, for, go
I guess
ahead.
we should introduce the show before I tell you more about my outfit. Go ahead and tell people why we're here.
Yes, while you're here, you are watching, and for the first time ever, I'm going to tell our secret. This isn't coming to you live, but you're watching it for the first time. It's new to you. It's Wild and Wise. I'm WBM, also known as William Bryant Miles, and I'm here with Jamilah
Jamilah Lemieux.
Lemieux.
I'm Jamilah Lemieux. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What an exciting show we have today, William.
I know, but you're supposed to tell us about this dress, the orange, before we get into the show. Because once we get into the show, there's no looking back.
There's no looking back. Well, I am dressed in homage to our guest today, who serves body, yaddy, 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 and always looks as if she has been lovingly poured into any frock she puts upon her body. So I went for something that made me look and feel poured in. I have to figure out what showing the audience my whole outfit looks like with the platform
Hmm.
that we use. I haven't figured out a way to do it without it just kind of being a little rude and grotesque. So I'm going to try my best to give you all a little bit of a stand-up moment. Okay, the chair is low, so I don't usually have to bend to stand myself up, but I'm giving
Oh, I like
it's a
and the
little,
fun is at the bottom. That's the
yes,
party.
that's the party, and she is a party. Our guest is a party, so I came dressed for the party today.
Well, I'm still working on my summer body yaddy yaddy, so I'm not cinched. Well, I'm cinched a little bit, but I have a light hold garment on. But I did decide to just give you a little animal, both in homage to ourselves, but also to our
Yes.
guest. And I don't know why we keep teasing her name, like as if you don't already know it, but it is the fabulous Bevy Smith. We're gonna have a lot of fun with her. So excited to bring her in just a bit. Before we get started with Madame Bevy. Uh, we like to start with first, what are you drinking? What are you sipping on? Are you sipping on anything?
I am. And speaking of summer, hot girl summer, and all that stuff, I'm sipping on water because let me tell you something. I
Why is it
had a glimpse,
yellow?
and I said the
Oh.
glasses, amber. Trying to be classy and cute. Now it looks like I'm drinking trifling California water. But no, I had a glimpse at what summer 2021 may hold this weekend. And I'm going to tell you, I'm scared. This was a glimpse from behind the mask, not really out there yet. It's going to be real. So everyone stay hydrated and good luck out there.
Oh yeah, it's like if COVID didn't take you out in 2020, summer 21 may be what is your undoing. But I'm ready for it. I'm ready to try it all. I'm sipping, maybe we're gonna
Let's
call
go.
this the Wild and Wise because this is that same confection from last time, a little ginger beer, some spirits, and a little
Elderflowers.
elderflower.
Uh, yes.
Yes. I was going to say lychee because they kind of taste the same, but they're from different parts of the
Hmm.
world. And so that's what I have going on. And, we like to start the show in addition to all this foolishness we're talking now, but also with our favorite, not our favorite, there's so many segments, but
Hmm.
at least we still have. So what you said you were out there in these streets. Sounds like you didn't want to tell us exactly why or how, and that's fine. But what's been helping you hold on? At least we still have.
Well, I can't. I'll give you two answers for that. What I came prepared with this week are my new earrings from the Simone L. Smith collection, the Sister Love collection specifically. So LL Cool J's wife, and I am not reducing her to LL Cool J's wife, but there's a reason that I'm mentioning
Mhm.
to whom she's married, sells bamboo earrings, which is brilliant if you remember LL Cool J's Round the Way Girl, where he famously says he's looking for a woman with bamboo earrings, at least two pair. And so his wife, also the Queens, New York girl, is selling these just gorgeous, gorgeous bamboo earrings. I'm so excited to have them. They were also a nod to Bevy and to the New York women who influenced this little I mean, never will I ever call myself a Midwestern girl. I'm from Chicago. Big difference. I am not a Midwest girl.
But
I'm
where's
from Chicago
Chicago?
in its own lane. In its own lane. Because there's a whole lot going on in the Midwest. I won't say I'm not, influenced by Midwestern values at all, but Chicago's a very special city in the Midwest. But even with that, it is not the East Coast. It's a big city. It's a different big city. And we like bamboos and big jewelry and big colors and stuff too. And that is, I think, what appealed to me in so many ways about New York, that it was what I loved, but with an exclamation point. You know what I mean? And with a different sort of diversity, particularly considering how many West Indian immigrants, how many people from the Caribbean are there. And so that aesthetic, that style, that ghetto fabulousness that Bevy Smith embodies, that has informed how, you know, at this point, 3 generations of young Black folks have come to understand style and color. And so that was my nod. At least we have these big old earrings that we can get from Simone Smith. But as far as the streets, I'm just going to say I went to Leimert Park, famous for it being the neighborhood where Moesha took place, if you're not an LA person. And it is one of the, in LA, I guess, one of the largest Black communities, and also from my experience thus far, one of the Black communities that you can go to in the way that you can go to Bedford Stuyvesant in New York, or Harlem, or that you can go to, you know, parts of South Shore and Chicago, or that you can go to South Shore, you know, parts of DC, and you know where the Black folks are, you know where the Black businesses are. There's community, there's love, there's energy. And having accidentally moved out the hood during the pandemic, because maybe I wasn't quite thinking, it was really beautiful to go back and to tap into that. And I was there for a, you know, Sunday flea market situation, and the men and the boys are out. And William, this is going to be a summer.
Oh, I'm aware. I still live in the hood, so gentrifying though it may be, I've heard it all. People have been using these PPP loans to get, like, the churches have new sound equipment. So I've been hearing it all over the community. The Sugar Hill Supper Club has, you know, was in full swing. 2020 was actually very good to them.
Sugar Hill Supper Club surviving COVID is the best news I've heard all day.
You clearly haven't been around. Sugar Hill, so for those who don't know, Sugar Hill is an iconic venue in Bed-Stuy. It's been around for a very long time. They have a very large outdoor space. And so they did very well in the COVID, because they have probably the size, the same but it's probably the same footprint of their indoor space, if not larger. So they were able to host all kinds of events last summer: parties, weddings, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs. Like,
you see me pushing the camera back so I could give a little bit more body, like not subtly being like, let me just show you a little bit more.
Or I mean, or maybe lifting it a bit too. I don't know. I'm not the camera person, but you look good. You look good in all that way. Maybe hide your notes.
Sure. That means I'm prepared. I'd be proud of having notes. I'm not a notes type of girl. So when I showed up with notes, that means I did my homework. I want credit.
stand in it fully. But all that to say, Sugar Hill made it. So they've been giving me an inkling of what's to come. The summer has been full out. As far as I'm concerned, at least we still have the beauty supply, because I have spent entirely too much time. And you know, you've been going to the beauty supply too long when they're bringing up your stuff. And then, like, the last 3 things, he was like, I'm not even going to charge you for this. And part of me was like, thank you for that. But then another part was like, I've gone too far. That means that you feel like you've made enough money off of me.
You made enough money off of me.
You feel like I bought you the house, the car. Like, you're like, you know what? We can all celebrate and share in these profits. And I was like, maybe I need to dial it back, because I've just been shaking wigs out, styling them, buying stuff. Some stuff I don't even use, and just giving it to other people. But at least we have the beauty supply store. So, I don't think I have anything else before we bring in the fabulous Bevy. I'm going to read her bio, though. I have notes, too. So this is her book. It's called Bevelations, Lessons from a Mother. And you got to say mother, even though it says TH mother. We'll talk to her about her preferred pronunciation. I like to say mother with the V.
Mother.
And it's by Bevy Smith, who is the host of Sirius XM's Gracie Award-winning Bevelations on Radio Auntie, and a former co-host of Bravo's Fashion Queens and the entertainment news show Page 6 TV. She is a beloved, either one, motivational speaker, brand ambassador, pop culture aficionado, television personality, and businesswoman. Most importantly, she is the quintessential Harlem girl and a lifelong New Yorker. We're going to talk about that. Bevy was born, raised, and still lives and loves in Harlem, New York City. Everybody, give it up for Bevy Bevy Smith.
Woo!
Yes.
Y'all got me ready. Y'all got me ready. I've been sipping on my beverita.
Yes.
This is a beverita.
Tell us, what's a beverita?
So a beverita is lime juice, tequila, just a tiny bit of agave, and then for sparkle plenty, champers. And this is Harlem champagne. Because all I do is represent Harlem all day. Harlem is on my back at all times.
So let's just jump into it. The people at home may or may not know that I represent historic Bedford-Stuyvesant in Kings County. And so, we were talking a bit about this. There's long-standing beef, or some people feel like there's beef. To me, it's all New York, it's all love. And the people know the truth. But Bevy, I know you had some thoughts you wanted to share about Brooklyn versus Harlem. And so I just wanted you to let that out your heart.
It's not a real rivalry because Harlem is a neighborhood in Manhattan, which is a borough. So if there's any competition, it would have to be between Brooklyn and Manhattan. And if you want to compare neighborhoods, then you can compare Fort Greene versus Harlem or Bed-Stuy versus Harlem or something like that. And I think we can all know and say this. Manhattan is really the epicenter of the world. You go into Manhattan, all of you guys have gone into Manhattan to make your money and to make your way in the world. No one gets to just stay in Brooklyn. Very few people get to just stay in Brooklyn and make all of their coins. Okay, so that's the. But I've never had to go to Brooklyn to make my money. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing, Harlem is the home of the greatest literary cultural movement in the 20th century, and by that I mean the Harlem Renaissance. So I love Bed-Stuy and I love Fort Greene. I love all the communities of Brooklyn. But when you look at what we've given the world, I think it's plain.
You're a guest in my house, so I'm gonna let you live. That's how I'm gonna spin that.
But if you have facts to dispute what I'm saying, if there's a cultural movement that Bed-Stuy has led and fueled that can rival the Harlem Renaissance, you let me know, because I would love to know about that. Because I love to know about history, darling. I like to know about legacy, okay?
We know Little Brown Bevy studies. We know that she was in the book. She was in the stacks.
She was in the stacks.
In the Mid-Manhattan Library. So I can get that. And I actually, because I used to cut school and go there too. But I also used to go with, we used to cut school to go to the library too. Most of the time, I went to high school in Manhattan as well. I went to high school downtown. So this proves your point that you got to leave Brooklyn to make something happen. And we would go to the library there, but we also used to go to the library in Brooklyn, the Grand Army Plaza, which I would actually argue is the more fabulous. Yeah, I think that
but I went to the main library on 42nd Street and Fifth Avenue, which is the grandest library of them all, which is where Carrie got married, was stood up by Big, which is where so many people have had their marriages, which was featured in The Wiz. You tell me if your library was featured in The Wiz.
Our library wasn't featured in The Wiz, but a lot of those scenes were shot in Hoyt Skidmore Station. But guess what we didn't do? We didn't come here to fight about Brooklyn versus Harlem. We came here to talk about Bevelations.
You can't fight about Brooklyn versus Harlem. You can only fight about Harlem versus Bed-Stuy.
Manhattan versus Brooklyn. Or Harlem versus Bed-Stuy. That's very fair.
And I think that we're going to clearly have to bring you back just for that show, because I do think that I think you're absolutely right. Like, the Harlem Renaissance is the Harlem Renaissance. And so what I will offer is that y'all got the 20th century, we got the 21st, right? And that remains to be seen and shake out. So that's where I am with that. And I think a case could be made for Brooklyn versus.
You got a high five on that, Will.
I did. I thought she saw it. I did it first. I thought she saw it.
Okay.
But I do think there's my key,
Yes. There is a debate to be had about Manhattan versus Brooklyn. And I think that the debate to be had, right, is the diversity of life in Brooklyn, I think, is what's unrivaled. That in Brooklyn, you can literally go from being on the ocean front to being in the epicenter of a downtown to being in a bucolic house with, neighbors that are whatever away, whereas Manhattan doesn't give you that. But I digress.
But you digress, and we will not spend this hour talking about these places that we don't own. We are not the Bloods and the Crips, okay? So we're
That part.
not gonna fuss and fight about places that we don't even own. Okay, Bouquet. Now let's get into it. First of all, I want to say to my daughter, Jamilah, baby, snatchage. And I just want to say, I love your glow up. It is so divine in every way. You have always had the bones for all of this, but you had to grow into yourself and into your self-confidence. And you had to really find out who you are and not let other people dictate to you who they thought you were and then print that onto you. And I think you've shaken that. And now we're seeing this grown-ass woman evolve. And I love every little bit of it. I love it. I'm so happy for you. I'm proud of you. And you are very much like a Bevelations moment. You know, my number one Bevelation is it gets greater later. And you are certainly showing that. Baby.
Thank you. Thank you, baby. That means a lot to me to hear that from you. And this book was very timely for me, especially being, you know, around that age that you were, where you made that decision, you know, that changed your life forever, that you were going to, you know, walk away from a very successful career into the unknown. You know, but I have to say, from when we first met, you looked at me and you said, I got my eye on you. You're going to be something. Yes. You're going to do something. You know, the way that you pour love on the people you meet in general. But I have to say, you keep your eye on the girls and the boys in this business, and you keep us lifted and encouraged, you know, with your words, but also with your example. So I want to talk about it getting greater later. You know, I think it's something, I suppose everyone does realize that you have to get to the later to realize that it's getting greater later, right? Because you spend your 20s and, you know, the earliest part of your 30s with all this, oftentimes this anxiety about this deadline, this idea in your head of when it's supposed to be settled, when I'm supposed to be the thing I'm going to be when I've grown up. And then, like a lot of people, you in your mid-30s realize that the thing that was working out very well for you just wasn't. So can you talk to us a little bit about that pivot?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I was just very successful, and I was one of the very few Black people in luxury fashion. And I'm talking about, this is the late 1990s, the early 2000s. And so now, of course, we go to, you know, Paris and Milan, and we see lots of Black folks there, and we see lots of Black celebrities. And we have Edward Enninful at British Vogue, and we have, you know, Elaine Welteroth, who was the first Black editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue. And we have all these examples now. But when I was doing it, it was a very solitary pursuit. You know, there was Andre Leon Talley. Luckily, I had Emil Wilbekin, who was the editor-in-chief, well, first the fashion director at Vibe, and then later on the editor-in-chief of Vibe. So he was my partner in crime. But other than that, it was a very solitary pursuit. So I spent a lot of decades. I spent like 2 decades pursuing this career. And I became the fashion and beauty advertising director, and I broke all the big business, the Pradas and the Gucci's and the Dior's and all that. And then I get here, and I'm sitting front row, and I'm dining with Tom Ford, and I'm doing all the things, darling, all the things that you could ever imagine from a girl who's from 150th Street and 8th Avenue. And I'm flying first class, and I've got the corner suite at the largest luxury hotel in Milan, and I'm staying at the Hotel Coast, and I'm doing all the things. And then I realize I'm miserable. And it ain't everything that I thought it was going to be cracked up to be. And then I have to look at myself and I have to say, how do you get out of this? Because this is actually a gilded cage that you've created. And I had to stop down, and I had to first acknowledge that I was miserable as something that I had pursued very hard. And I know that there's a lot of women who are probably listening to this, watching this, who can relate, because how many times have we chased after a man and then only to get him and be like, this piece of shit, it wasn't worth my time. And sometimes that happens with careers as well. But I find that women are far more, and I would say people are far more hesitant to pivot out of a big career that you built that brings you not only a large salary, but also accolades and respect, and put you in spaces and places that sometimes we haven't ever imagined. And so I had to acknowledge that I was unhappy.
And that's hard, right, Bevy? When you know that so many people want to be in your shoes, right? That you feel privileged. This is an honor. How can I be unsatisfied by something that people would die for?
Yes, exactly. See, it was a dream job for me, and then it became a nightmare. And that's when I was like, I got to wake up. But the interesting thing is, I had that meltdown when I was 33 years old, and I did not actually make a move until I was 38. And that's a really important part of the book, because I never want people to think just because you're unhappy, you should you should burn up your whole damn life. That's great in a movie, or if you got a rich daddy, or if you got a rich man, like, if you're dating Ron Isley or something, Mr. Biggs or something, and then he can help, subsidize your new life, right? But for many of us who we've worked really hard to get to this place, to have this kind of status and stature, if you burn it all down, then what are you left with? So I had to think long and hard. I had to figure out what I was going to do next when I burned this whole damn thing down. And I burned it down at 38 years old, but it did not actually happen for me until I was 45. So it's 7 years, which in the Bible, 7 is the number of completion. Come on, Resurrection Sunday.
Hello.
Yes, Tupac and Biggie. But
who are also in the book.
Yes, who are also in the book. But I had to burn it down, but it didn't actually happen for me for 7 years. And so that's another thing I always want to make clear. It was 7 years of a struggle to get to where I wanted to be. So changing your life and doing a big, broad, major pivot is not for the faint of heart.
So 7 years from when you started, but that was a 12-year process, right? From the breakdown to the break. I won't say breakthrough, but until it's all settled. Like from breaking ground to the grand opening was 12 years. And that is what struck me, because as someone like Jamilah, I don't know how time works out this way, but we're the same age yet. I'm also 21. It's weird how that works.
And you look at, by the way, clearly you're drinking lots of water, minding your business, and going to the beauty supply store constantly, because you look amazing.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that investment is paying off, because a rent was due and I just gave them lip gloss. So hopefully that'll work. But the thing for me is, like, I tend to have this like burn it all down kind of philosophy, and I've been known to walk off jobs and stuff, which is tacky and terrible. I don't recommend. So I just wanted to understand from you, like, where did you get, like, what pulled you through the 5 years, for one, to be like, I know that this break, I'll be able to eventually step away. And then longer term, that 7 years when it got sticky and dicey, what kept you, instead of being like, you know what, let me just call Tom Ford up and be like, can I come back and sell these ads?
Right. Well, I mean, the 5 years was, that was just all inner turmoil, right? So that was the excavative work that I had to do for myself. So that was painful, but in a very different way. I still had all of the trappings of my very successful life. I was still, doing the thing that I had set out to do as far as like my career went. So that was just doing that kind of work. And so in the book, I mentioned the 4 Agreements. I mentioned The Artist's Way. Those are 2 books that really helped me kind of solidify my idea that I wanted to become a creative versus just strictly being a very successful businesswoman. But the tough part was the 7 years of the transition, going from making $350,000 a year to making about $35,000 a year. And what does that look like, and how does it change your life? But the chapter where I really go into detail is called Broke but Blissful. And that's the part that I really want to like communicate to people, is that even though I was broke, I was very, very happy in my new life, because I wasn't making money, but I was doing everything that I quit my job to do. So I was on TV. I was always on VH1 and BET and E, and I was writing for Glamour and Essence and, all these different great magazines. So I was doing everything I wanted to do. The money just had not caught up as of yet. But it was still tough, because, to go from taking town cars everywhere to riding the bus, to go from having $200 dinners every night, to then, going out to the supermarket and counting your pennies and being like, I cannot afford a Vidalia onion. I better take this yellow onion. I cannot afford olive oil. I better get this corn oil. I better go get this can of salmon. I got a recipe for salmon croquettes in my book, because a can of salmon, which is $5, that's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, that'll hold you down. So those were the tough parts. But even through it all, guys, every single time I would go through a hardship, including the fabulous housing court moments, because
Mhm.
you know you can't be evicted in New York, and they will put that piece of paper on your door, and you do have to answer
Mhm.
them before the sheriffs come. So even in that moment, I always said to myself, "Oh, this is gonna be a good book. This is gonna be a good chapter in the book." And sure enough,
Mhm.
I was right. So I always had the optimistic outlook. You know, I used to always think trouble don't last always.
Show them.
You don't.
I'd be curious to hear about what it felt like for you being in this extended period of transition and difficult, emotional turmoil and plotting and planning, and I got to figure out a way to change these circumstances. When people look at you and see contentment, right? Because we see someone being successful, and we assume that on some level they must be happy with their lives, they must be
Mm-hmm.
okay, right? And so for you to be, especially at the point in which you don't have the salary anymore, right? But people still see you in the same, as they should. You're the same woman. You've had the same accomplishments, but there's still this thinking that she must be okay. She doesn't have hard times. She can't be stressed about money. She's Bevy Smith, and you're having this very different experience. How did you balance that?
Well, here's the thing. I am of the mindset that I never was ashamed of my circumstances. So in the book, I talk about the guys at the corner that own the barbershop
Mm-hmm.
stopping me one day and saying, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And they're like, "Because we see you taking the bus. You all right? Like, what's going on with you?" I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm changing my life. Like, yeah. I quit my big fancy job, and yeah, I'm kind of broke now, but so I take the bus."
Yeah.
And they were like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, okay, but you all right?" I was like, "No, I'm fine, but I'm just broke." I mean, listen, I live in Harlem. The annual household income for four is under $40,000. So to
Yeah.
me, I felt like, what's the big deal
Still
of being
okay.
broke? A lot of people around you are broke and manage to have very nice lives, even though they have financial difficulties. It's not that big of a
Most
deal.
people are broke.
That part. Most people are broke,
That
and we
part.
don't talk about money enough, which is why
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
my question was, it's tied to what you're talking about. What Jamilah mentioned when you were in those rooms with your peers that made $350,000. Was the conversation the same as it was with the guys on the street? Like, I'm broke now, but it's cool. Or did
Yeah.
you have to
No, no,
move
no. It was
different?
no. Well, I moved differently because I couldn't afford to go downtown. Because I couldn't afford a $50 cab ride. So if
Mhm.
someone wanted me to come to their gala or to their event, maybe we just really want you there. Well, you're gonna have to send a car for me
Then for me.
because I don't have $100 for car fare.
Mhm.
And then folks would send a car for me. It was not. I mean, because I was so not ashamed because I knew that my circumstances didn't define who I was. So
Mm-hmm.
it was nothing to be ashamed of. We all go through hard times. And
Mhm.
so this was just a moment where I was having a hard financial time, but I was having the most amazing, purposeful, personal time. I was having all these creative epiphanies. I was I was electric. I was light. I was energy. So I had no problem with telling folks, anybody, I'm broke. That's the reason why I had no problems with calling my friend Dr. Sherry when she was living in Shanghai, which is, part of the communist China, and being like, "Girl, I need some money." And she had to run around trying to figure out how she was going to get money wired from communist China to America. But we made it
Mm-hmm.
happen. You know what I mean? So it was nothing. And then, of course, and now you look at it, and I'm back, and I'm still black. So it's nothing, per.
Now, let me ask you a question. If the money didn't show up the same, right? Like say all your needs were met, so you would have still been able to pay your rent, but
Yeah.
the $200 dinner still felt a little far. Would that still have been okay? Like, was that light enough to carry you in perpetuity, or did we still need the
I
coin?
Well, I think about it this way. When I quit my job, it was literally because I wanted to be a theater actor. And so I knew that theater
Mm-hmm.
actors don't make the same amount of money as TV and film actors. So in my spirit, I thought that I was prepared to just do what I love and be able to make a good living out of it. I know now that I'm a Scorpio and money comes to me and money loves me. Money just don't like to be without me. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I let money go, and then money come running back. Money be like, Bevy, where have you been? I love you so much. So really, honestly, I'm always going to be okay. I'm always going to do well, because even if I have a lag in it, it's always going to pop right back up. And I've seen that time and again. And so I live in that space. I walk in that space. I'm good financially because that's just the way it's going to be. Well, also too, I've learned so much about who I am, and I know that I'm very ingenious when it comes to creating something. Right? I am actually an accidental entrepreneur. I created Dinner with Bevy because I was broke, and by creating Dinner with Bevy, now I have all these amazing relationships with celebrities, which also feeds the work that I do when I'm interviewing celebrities. Or, I just started acting, and, I'm acting with people that have come to Dinner with Bevy events. And I'm just like, this is surreal. Look at you, 10 years later. You're doing something that you always set out to do. So, yeah, I'm not ever that worried about money. I'm smart. I'm savvy. I'm a very good negotiator. I do not have any problems asking for what I'm worth. I have no problems asking for half of my money up front and 50% upon day of the event. That's a new version of Aretha Franklin. You know what I mean? They ask for the money, on a brown paper bag. I'm like, you can just wire it. I don't need it in the brown paper bag. But, so I think those are things that as Black people, especially when we're working in these kind of heady spaces, we have to stop being so grateful. We have to know our value and our worth, and we have to ask for it. And then sometimes we have to demand it. Like I just actually had my agent go back and renegotiate another thing because they came back with a number that I just was like, that's not sufficient. And we had to go back 3 times when I got the coin that I wanted. Okay, bouquet.
Cheers.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
As your friend Biggie used to say, get money.
Get money.
And I don't have nothing else to add to that. Get the coin. But it's funny you brought up Dinner with Bevy, because when Jamilah and I, we must have been like, 6 or 7, if you do the math.
Yes.
Sneaking into clubs and such, like Drew Barrymore.
Tiny babies.
We were like the Black Drew Barrymore, basically.
Yes.
And I remember that. I remember that moment, and it's so funny because from where we sat, right, like we had no idea that this is like what we would now understand as a rent party in some ways, I guess. Like I'm trying to get this coin. Like to us, it was so fabulous and so.
Well, it was though. It was deliberate. All those things, but it was literally, it was born out of the fact that it was a service that needed to be done, because there was no way for these Black celebrities to get in the room with Vogue and Harper's Bazaar and GQ and Esquire and in front of Saint Laurent and Vuitton and all these other big brands. It literally it couldn't happen. Like, you guys have to remember something. 10 years ago, if a Black person even got a paragraph in Vogue, that was something that we celebrated. It was like, oh my God, did you see that paragraph in Vogue? Now, of course, they're putting us on the covers. We own the whole Vogue.com. They pander. But back then, it was a really big deal. And so my dinner parties helped facilitate those kind of relationships. So it was not a rent party, because what I was doing was not just because I needed money. I was in service to these celebrities, and I was helping them. And to this day, they remember that. You know what I mean? Like I did a party for Swizz Beatz where that's how he connected with Paper Magazine, who put him on the cover about his art. You know what I mean? So these are things I was doing. I introduced Misty Copeland to Nelson George, and that's how her documentary was created. And he had never even been to a ballet.
What I meant by rent party wasn't to diminish the quality of the work, because it was fabulous, but it was that, like, from where I sat, it seemed to me like this was something that was contemplated in a way that, like, the takeaway for me was you have enough and you are enough, whoever you are, whether it's Bevy at that moment, Jamilah, William, whoever's watching or listening now. Like, it seemed to me like this is something that's been contemplated in those suites, in the CEOs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which it had been over your years of experience. But it also was something born out of an immediate need of like, well, right now I need to make this happen. And so that's what I meant by the rent party, not the quality of it, but the fact that the impetus was like, tomorrow I got to make something happen. What do I know? And that was like, oh, yes.
What is in my hands, right? What is in my hands? Mm-hmm. And I love that, William. Like, you know, you guys are young and creative and beautiful and vibrant. And I love to see the way you get to move. You know what I mean? Because your journey is not going to be as arduous as my journey. And that's the way it should be. I resent when older people talk about how good y'all have it. Y'all should have it better than we did. Then what the hell were we going through the struggle and the strife for if y'all don't get to waltz into certain rooms and make things happen? You know what I mean? So I'm glad that you guys have this platform and that you have these voices that can be heard, and you don't have to pander and you don't have to kowtow and you do not have to go in with your hand out like arms for the poor. No, you walk into rooms. I can already tell, William, you walk into rooms letting them know. You kick in the door waving the 4-4. You know what I mean?
Can confirm.
That's your spirit, and that's a beautiful thing. Now, if you had come up in the late 1990s, that may not have worked out for you, because back then there had been no one to grease the kind of there had been no one to like kind of ease the way for you. So by the time you show up, they're like, okay, this young man is actually making sense. What he's asking for is not so insane. He's asking for equity. He's asking for equality. Okay, this makes sense. We can do that, you know. But if you had done that in the late 90s, I have so many friends that had the spirit that you have and the spirit that Jamilah has, because she's a fighter too. And they got blacklisted in the business. They got blacklisted in media. They got blacklisted in fashion, you know. But now you guys don't even have to worry about that kind of thing because you have your own platforms. That's a beautiful thing. I celebrate you. I cheers to you.
Well, thank you.
Wild and wild.
Thank you. And cheers to you for
you,
opening the door.
Yes,
now, that's what we're supposed to do.
We're going to be drunk before this is over.
Exactly. But that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Bevy, there's a phrase you use. I'm sorry.
Go on, baby.
I'm sorry. There was a phrase you used in the book that I loved that makes me think of what you're saying right now about who we are and how it might have been a different walk for us in the 90s. You talked about getting this devastating news while you were at City Island, which you describe as being down market to some, but bougie to others, kind of like yourself, right?
Yes.
I think that is something that William and I both deeply connect to. In some rooms, we are the bougiest thing ever and cannot be believed. And in others, we are down market, right? And so I think that for a long time, Black folks have, you know, particularly to survive in spaces like media and the arts and, you know, anything where there's visibility and prestige, that you have to be one or the other, right? And if you fit into one box, we've got something we're going to do with you. And if you fit into the other one, there's a whole lot of things you can do in front of and behind the camera, right? Yeah. And so that we're no longer being asked to lose that authentically down market part of ourselves in the way that we may have 20 years ago is something that you absolutely deserve a lot of credit for.
Oh, thank you, baby. Well, you know what, though? It's interesting because before I went to work at Vibe, I had never worked with Black people. And then I left Vibe and went to Rolling Stone, no Black people. And what I realized is that, because I had this opportunity to work at Essence, and when I went there, I realized that that would be hindering my most authentic self in the same way as if I had went to work for a white place. Because at that time, Essence magazine was a very specific type of Black person. Absolutely. And it was decidedly not a hip hop party like myself. It was not, you would not go into the offices of Essence magazine until actually fairly recent and actually hear hip hop being played. Like that didn't happen. They didn't put Lil' Kim on the cover. They didn't put Foxy on the cover. You think
When
about it.
they put Kim on the cover, and shout out to Akisi Britton, she's a fabulous writer, but they allowed a writer to pen an open letter to her as opposed to
Right.
engaging her like a traditional journalistic
Right.
subject, which is
Right.
incredibly insulting.
Yeah. So when I got there, I was like, well, I'm already really like vested in my life as a very hot girl, hip hop hottie moment. And I don't want to go to a company where I'll have to like show up in an Ann Taylor suit and like, you know, kind of like just be just respectability politics 101. Wasn't interested in it. And so I declined the situation. And then Vibe called me, and it was the first time that my professional and my personal life was able to collide, and it was perfect. If Black Panther had been out, walking into the offices of Vibe was like walking into Wakanda. We were beautiful and Black. Some of us were highly educated. Other people didn't even have high school diplomas, and everybody was mixed into this beautiful melting pot of Black culture in service to the culture. Oh, it was the most magnificent thing. And I don't think we've had that since.
I have a lot of thoughts on the community at large and how we ended up in that space, and just the performance of Blackness in white spaces and the performance of whiteness by Black people in Black spaces. So everything you're saying is speaking to me. Yeah, I actually want to jump back to something you mentioned earlier. So Jamilah and I met at a Black space. We went to Howard together. That's how we know each other. And we both studied theater at Howard. And so you mentioned that you wanted to be a theater actor. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time with Little Brown Bevy to geek out about like some of your favorite theatrical productions, dream role, just whatever is on your spirit about the theater. Because we don't get to see Black theater folk who, you know, talking about these things very often.
Well, I have to tell you, so for me, like I love James Van Der Zee, and I love Jacob Lawrence, and I love Zora Neale Hurston, and therefore I love August Wilson. And what all those people have in common, all those artists have in common, is that they looked at the common Black person. Because see, as much as I love the Harlem Renaissance, a lot of it was geared towards the talented 10. And the people that came from the South, that were not highly educated, that were domestics, that were porters and things like that, they were not talked about in the Harlem Renaissance. They wanted to make sure that those kind of people were kind of put in the back because they weren't uplifting the race, right? But Jacob Lawrence painted them beautifully. Zora Neale Hurston, you know, her whole career was really, you know, kind of demonized by
anthropology.
many. Okay, so I love August Wilson because when you look at his plays, it's about the humanity of the common Negro, the common Black person. And so, yes, a goal of mine would be to do anything in the August Wilson play, even if it's to be the charwoman, just like, you know, just any little thing. I want to do musicals. I love to sing. I'm not the best singer, but I sing all the time. And I love to do it. And I grew up on musicals. And when I was a kid, you had to work in movies, you had to be a triple threat. Like I'm watching old movies, 1950s movies. I'm not that old, but I would watch old movies. And you would see these people that you could tell they dance really well, but they couldn't really sing. Or they sang really well, but they couldn't really dance. You know what I mean? So I think of myself as that kind of person. Like I think I will become a very good actor. And then I can like belt out a couple of tunes. They will modify the music for my vocal ability. And then, you know, I love a good high kick. So, you know, I'm going to go and see about Debbie Allen, you know, teaching me a few things. And yeah, we'll get that going. But yeah, that's definitely my goal. In the book, I talk about wanting to be an EGOT. And I do believe I'll get there. I think I will be at least nominated for everything, but I think I'll win everything. I'm just going to put it out there.
I mean, why not? Why the hell not?
Why not?
Why not?
I always say if we're dreaming, why not dream the most fabulous dream? If we're making it up, might as well.
That's a chapter in my book, Dare to Dream. We have been taught to even minimize our dreams as Black people. You think about it. Like even if you come from wealthy background, as a Black person, your dreams are still very limited as to what society will deem acceptable from your class, from your ilk. And that's not okay. I cannot tell you how many of my African girlfriends, their parents were devastated. Yvonne Orji talks about it all the time. I think she was in med school, right? And then she was like, I'm going to be a comedian. And they were like, they didn't even allow her to dream for herself. Now, thank God she woke up and was like, well, you know what? I love you, mommy and daddy, but I'm going to do what I want to do. But a lot of us never break out from that. And so we allow people to put their hopes, dreams, and aspirations on us, and we never actually become our fully realized self. So I'm urging people in my book to dare to dream big and audaciously.
Dream the impossible dream.
Yes.
Like Man of La Mancha.
Yes, Man of La Mancha.
Maybe we'll maybe play the Man of La Mancha. That'll be fierce.
That's it. Yes.
Flip it on its head.
You never know.
Give it to her.
Yes. There you go. Why not?
So before we get out of here, one thing we promised that we would talk about. I think it's probably the least interesting thing that we want to discuss with you, but I'm going to make a second for it. In your book, you very succinctly and I think very effectively get to the heart of the auntie debate. And we had an auntie moment a few years ago when I was I was a guest on Bevelations, and I think so this may be 4 years ago. So, I was, how old was I, William? 19. But I made a joke and I referred to myself as an auntie, and you said, no. You are too young for that. You are not at that age yet. Do not call yourself an auntie. Do not let these people call you an auntie. And you said, look, there are people who can call me auntie. Drake can't call me auntie because I'd fuck Drake. And I was like, I just felt so sane. I felt so sane. Because it's still new to hear Black women, particularly Black women that are not 19, say out loud, I'd fuck him. Right. So one spoke to all of my needs in that moment. But in the book, you say, you appreciate the title of auntie. It's one that you are, honored to wear, but then you are also clear that at times it is used as quote unquote shade, insult, and pejorative about age. And I think there's a big disconnect because there are people that are saying it in a loving way, and there are people that are saying it in a shady way. And so when you have folks like Ava DuVernay or Oprah Winfrey publicly say, I don't want to be called that, a lot of people, thought it was a class thing, or that it was, something else. But I think that they, too, were hearing perhaps, even when it, were it present or not, that shade and that pejorative thing around age, it means a lot to women, right? When you tell somebody that, because if the implication is that you are no longer something that you once were, and that was not your decision to change, right? So talk about what an auntie authentically is to you, and why you are proud to wear the title under the right circumstances. You said people under 35 are allowed to call you auntie. Over 35, that's a no-go.
No-go. Well, I'm a proud auntie of 5 kids. And so my oldest nephew is 36, and I became an aunt when I was 19, which is a young aunt. My sister was a teen mother, and that's the reason I became a young auntie. So she cursed me. No, but my nephew is amazing. And now I'm a great aunt because of him. I have a little 5-year-old. He's 8 years old. Great nephew. But the part I enjoy the most is like, I'm aunt to my niece who is 26 years old, who is beautiful and vibrant and popping, and she's my favorite travel partner. And I love being her aunt. Like it makes me so happy. We hang out together. We listen to the same music. We won't go to clubs, but if I'm out, if I have access at a big VIP event, I definitely want her to come with me because I know she's going to burn it down and have the best time. I'm going to be luxurious on the sofa. People are going to be tending to me and bringing me champagne. But you get out there and bust it wide open on the floor, girl. You know what I mean? So I like this. So that's, to me, I don't mind being auntie when it's somebody that is young and beautiful and vibrant, but you have to be young. Like, you cannot be 40 years old talking about Auntie Bev. You are an old grown-ass woman. You middle-aged just like me. Man, if you don't sit down somewhere, you understand? So that's a problem. But if you're a young little whippersnapper, still got stars in your eyes, yes, I'm definitely your Auntie Bev. And then also, too, for me, I would not date someone who is in their 30s now, right? So that's kind of like the cutoff for me. It's weird. A lot of my stuff comes in about sex. It's like, if we could fuck the same person, I cannot be your auntie.
I can't be your auntie if we're dating the same men.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You know, it's so funny. I'm listening because I'm listening, but I have a different perspective, right? And I think Bevy answered it for me. It's because I was born an uncle. My nieces are 29 days older than me. So it's like the idea of aunt, uncle, and this hierarchy for me is completely fucked.
Yeah.
It is completely screwed up. So,
but also, you know,
but also men getting older is not seen in the same way, my love. So you'll always be, as long as you can keep that nice head of hair, you'll always be a young man in a lot of people's eyes. You think about, you know, Ron Isley. Everyone was going crazy over him on the verses. Ron Isley is 79 years old. Do you really think that if we even saw someone as young as Oprah doing all of that, we would be, yes, Oprah? Young men wouldn't be like, oh, I'm ready to bang Oprah. No, they would not.
We saw it with Gladys and Patty, right? Everybody was referential and reverential.
But nobody wanted to come back to the hotel. Like, nobody was looking for the after party.
And they both looked amazing.
And Patty
they
might
both
throw you a party.
Right. See, so that's the difference for you.
You're right.
You get to be Ron Isley and have all the sex forever, even though you're 79 years old. And Patty and Gladys get to be auntie and go home and make you some fried chicken. But when you come home from the club.
Chicken. Thank you. That is the part of the auntie thing that never landed for me, because I get the cool aunt who took me to the mall, who I could talk to about sex, who got me into the party. I understand and appreciate all of that. But so often when you hear auntie, you do think of, oh, baby, let me fix you a plate. You know, and that's the part.
I hear y'all, but Bevy, to me, auntie, like the one in my head who really has been for so long, been an auntie, and I remember when she became an auntie to me is Vivica Fox, and I think that, and I know that is not anything that y'all are saying, but it's like everything Bevy says. She gonna get you in the club. She has the wig, she has the fur, she has the jewels, she has the roster. And you know, so I'm different. I realize I'm a unicorn. Don't listen to me, people out here. I'm on a different frequency.
Yeah, because I don't know if Viv would want to be your auntie.
I'm sure she wouldn't, based on everything you're saying.
Your auntie, right? Not you. Maybe somebody who's 20. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like, you a grown ass man. Like, cannot be right. You cannot be. Okay, so one more question.
Oh, you know what? But I want to say this really, really quick. One more time. One more thing. And I know that people were using it negatively when they call Mary J. Blige auntie. And I really resent that, because she shows up in bikinis slaying everyone of every age. And so they try her. They try Mary J. Blige when they call her auntie.
Because it feels like, you know, the thing is, it's like, it's one thing to call her auntie maybe when she's, you know, if there's a dance clip. It's like, look at Auntie Mary, you know, reminding you of the auntie at the family reunion. But if you look at the whole of Mary J. Blige, I get where people put her in the cool auntie box, but I almost see her as more like the cool big sister or the big cousin. You know what I mean? Like, and again, that's also, you know, us being people in our 30s versus, you know, somebody who's 19 looking at Mary J. Blige, who very well could be like, she's my auntie because she was making songs before I was born. But when people in their 30s absolutely were trying the Auntie Mary thing, and I'm like, I can't call that woman an auntie who looks better than me in a bathing suit and is running laps around the stage, and people can giggle about the dancing, but she's clearly, you know, in her bag,
tip top shape,
right? Like,
well, don't try it. My phone's my computer's about to die. Hold on, y'all. Cut this part out.
Okay.
We gotta it doesn't get cut out. We can mute her mic.
Live pre-tape television.
It is live. Exactly, it's live. We don't have that budget to edit. That's extra.
Okay.
But to me, is the auntie thing, and I hear this, and this is what I'm saying. I am a unicorn. I'm from the future. I'm finally accepting that about myself. But I always thought of auntie, like, to use it in that sense. I've always thought of auntie as someone fabulous, right? Like,
yes,
I've never thought of it as Nana. right? Everything that y'all uses to describe like auntie to me has always been kind of like Nana and like,
Yeah.
you know, but I guess, like I said, my whole family situation is fucked. So I'm like, to me, Mary is an auntie because of her actual age, but then it's like, she's fabulous. But I'm going to just let it
But
be. I'm
Mary
not going to tell
can't be
women
your,
how to describe.
but Mary can't be your auntie because if you're over 30 something, like, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. In my family, Mary can't be my auntie because my nieces are 29 days older than me. My nephew
Right.
is 2 years older than me. So I'm ruined. Is
But that's
basically
the
what we
whole,
learned.
but that's unique. But I guess the point being, you know, I've never heard Uncle Jamie Foxx. I've heard Uncle
Right.
Steve Harvey.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But he had to be nearly 60 to get to that point, right? Like,
Yeah.
and Steve
You're
Harvey's
right. You're right.
also
You're right.
never been on the stage doing all the sexy shit. You know, I mean, so it's,
Yeah.
Okay, so before we got, I know we've been instructed to wrap up, but I do have a quick word. So, Bevy, as a single yet optimistic woman with a thriving career who's, you know, still indulging in love and passion,
Mhm.
I want to hear your take. Younger men at this point in your life,
Oh,
still
for
a
me,
go, still a, yes.
yeah, but you have to think about what younger is. I'm 54 years old, so younger could be
Mm-hmm.
a 40-year-old man, could be a younger man. That's a grown ass man though, and that's what I'm in the business
Absolutely.
of. I'm in the market for a grown ass man, so I need a man who does well for himself. I need a man who is well adjusted. I need a man who is faith based. I need a man who loves his family. I cannot date someone who is a child and who has childish ways. And so, yeah. But I would like, you know, for instance, Damson Idris is amazing. I just said this on the computer. I know we got rap. I just said this on the computer. Now that's an auntie thing to say. I said this on the computer.
On the computer.
On the computer. I said, I am so happy that young women today, young black women, get a chance to date quirky black guys like Lakeith Stanfield or like Damson Idris or any number of these guys. Because when I was a young woman, we had to choose between Thug Lovin' and Urkel. And now y'all got carefree black boys that like dance and are silly and are creative and they're heterosexual and yet they will wear a wig and they will paint their nails and they will do all these quirky things. When in my era, yeah, we had Thug Lovin' or we had Urkel. So if you know, but now y'all get to get all this in between. So I'm so happy that it has evolved for you guys. I'm hoping to meet the quirky uncle of Lakeith or the quirky uncle of Damson. Actually, I think I told Damson that. But yeah, that's why
I
I'm in the
love that
market
for you. I would love for you to find the quirky uncle. I find the quirky, carefree black boy. I'll say I do find them a little bit younger than I am. Particularly
Really?
if I want them to have, especially if I want them to have some good values around gender. You know, like if I don't want to have to like maybe have a debate or argument about Bill Cosby or R. Kelly, I've found a little bit closer to 30 as opposed to 40 has been thus far paid off pretty well. Thus far.
Wow. But but can you have a relationship with them or can you have a great time with them?
Relations.
I think this summer we're gonna find it out. I think I'm finally putting younger men, older men head to head, and what'll probably end up happening is somebody my age coming in the middle and just snatching me away. But
yes.
At this point, I do think that did we lose Bevy? Okay.
No.
Okay, you're back. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. We got a message on the side. But at this point, I will say, like again, they're full grown. You know, if we're talking 30, you are grown. You know, but having dated in that era,
they're not as grown as you.
Having lived through 30 ain't really grown. Having lived through it, I can now say that.
But men require a lot less correction at 30 than they do at 40, it feels. And I don't want to do a lot of, I don't want to, I will unlearn things in a relationship with any person, right? Somebody I'm close to. William teaches me things. I've learned things from you. But when we're talking about some of the things that come with dating men, in my experience, there's a lot of debate and a lot of, we got to get through this and unlearn this, you know, toxic sexist thing when you're closer to the 40 side. Whereas the 30 side has been listening to these kind of progressive feminist conversations since they were a kid, you know, and even if they weren't actively engaged in them, they've they've caught a few things here and there that make me feel a little bit safer with them. But we shall see, because this is good. Bevy, are you having a hot girl summer? Is this going to be a hot girl summer?
Oh yeah,
for
well
you?
I had a hot girl summer last year. I was out and about because that was the safest place to be outside. So I had a great summer, and I plan on having an even better one because now we can travel. So
Yes,
I'm back. I'm back in the world.
So I hate
world.
and there's clearly not going to be any kind or easy way to do this, but we have to wrap up with you, Bevy. Everybody hold up your books. Bevelations, Andy Cohen books available wherever books are sold, but I cannot stress enough, ordering from a Black-owned bookstore is your best bet with this. They can ship it to you wherever you are, and everybody eats off that. Bevy eats the Black-owned bookstore, your local community or that community. I want to thank you again. You poured into us in the book. You poured into us individually today. Hopefully we can have you back to really clarify, Brooklyn versus Harlem, but that's, or rather Brooklyn versus Manhattan. I know.
Thank you.
I'm listening to clarify that, but I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, baby. It was such a blast, and I'm so happy to have met you through this podcast, but I hope that we'll get a chance to kiki and hobnob in real life.
Yes, we will. We will. And soon.
My travel itinerary for the summer absolutely involves returning to New York. And I will happily grab William and drag him to Harlem for some champagne so we can have a proper key with you.
We'll have the best key. It will be so good. And you have to wear one of your scrumptious freakum dresses and show them what you're working with.
I will.
I'm going to do it.
William's like, I will. Yes. William, you bring all the beauty supply products for us, okay?
Will do. Thank you, Bevy.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bevy.
That was fun. That was festive.
That was fun.
That was like Fix My Life. It was all the things. We're supposed to do facts now, but I think we are. I don't know. Is there anything else left to say? It was so much.
I think we are good. I think that that Bevy left us with all the facts. But I will say, I'm just going to share one more quote from the book that I really liked. Something we didn't get to talk about, but Bevy mentioned that her commitment phobia, which is something oftentimes we look at as a negative trait, is the reason that she is the single yet optimistic woman with a thriving career, as opposed to being the thrice divorced star of Bad and Bougie Bitches Fight Club or whatever other reality show she might have gotten dragged into. So the fact is that this is somebody who's had a whole lot of that stuff thrown their way and has chosen to stand in her truth, be herself, create and only do work that she finds meaningful. And I think that's something that is inspirational to all of us, especially folks like you and I, William, who are creating careers for ourselves that we can't point to on paper and say, I want to be a that. So thank you, Bevy. I absolutely treasure and love you for that message.
Yes, and that's that. And my fact, you just made me realize something that it's a fact from the book. She said it several times, but everything Jamilah said, and remembering that at 38 is when she decided to make the shift. So that's been really exciting. I want us to hold all of that. I want to thank you. I'm William Bryant Miles. I'm here with Jamilah Lemieux. I never know if I'm going to let you say your name. Let's try it again. I'm going to let you say your name. I'm William Bryant Miles.
I'm Jamilah Lemieux.
And this is Wild and Wise, and we thank you so much. Have a great night.